तप्त कांचन वर्णा कुंकुम शोण शोभा नील सरोज नेत्रा मंजुक्ति शीला धीरा चिरं नटन्ति रंगे समाद्रुता गान संप्रदायै सदा श्रेया उत्फुल्लिता आरभि रागिणी बुद्धि सारे मापा
That I danced to Arabhi as a beautiful woman. So it says that this Arabhi Ragha, she is like a beautiful woman. Her skin is the color of molten gold. Her forehead is decorated. Her eyes as beautiful as a blue lotus. She's very firm and grave as a rock. And she comes alive in the company of musicians. This system of, this tradition of describing a raga as a person comes from the Raga Ragini system of Indian classical music, which has in turn inspired so much of Indian traditional painting. I used to dance contemporary dance. I in fact worked for 6 years with a professional contemporary dance company, but I always found something missing. I wasn't really fulfilled in some sense. And this is what led me to discover and fall in love with Indian classical dance because it's so cool. Indian classical dancers, they never merely just dance. They build a tapestry of layers of music, of poetry, of sculpture, painting. They bring forth a history which is several thousand years old, and they're part of creating a culture every single time that they dance. Another thing that fascinates me about Indian classical dance is our tradition, very unique to Indian classical dance, of telling stories when you dance. So a dancer will portray several emotions. She'll play several characters when she dances. And for instance, she could be a disciple worshipping somebody, and then in a blink of an eye turn around and become the goddess herself. Apart from this philosophy behind Indian classical dances, there is also a very vast, well-codified, well-structured technique or vocabulary or the language or the way the body is used. And each Indian classical dance has its own distinguishing technique, which is very unique to each form. And because I'm in love with Odissi, I'd like to give you a very, very small glimpse into what Odissi technique is all about. Odissi dancers, we dance from this kind of a semi-squat position. This is because we are sending our center of gravity really low towards the earth. We're building a relationship with the earth, and we derive a lot of strength from her when we dance. And this is opposed to, say, a Western classical form such as ballet, where dancers are always moving away from the earth when they dance. Also, Odissi dancers are always balancing opposite ideas or movements. So she could be balancing a sense of spirituality and sensuality, or a sense of strength and lyrical grace. Gurus in Orissa like to say that an Odissi dancer's lower body is as strong as the rocks of the Konark temple, the stones of the Konark temple, while her upper body makes these undulating movements, like the waves that wash on the Konark shore. Odissi dancers also never make any straight lines with their body. So if you compare it to a dance form such as Bharatnatyam, a Bharatnatyam dancer to connect 2 points would make a movement something like this, which is very linear in nature. But an Odissi dancer would connect those points with a movement like this. So it's very curvy linear, and it's a kind of a semi-infinity, or if you see, a kind of an S-shaped pattern that she creates in space. I have been fascinated by the beauty and wisdom of Odissi, and for the past 6 years, every waking thought of mine has been related to Odissi. And for the past 3 years, I've been running my dance school, ARPANA, and this has been an immense learning experience for me, and I'd like to share a few lessons that I've had with regards to vision. In every field, there is an established system or the way something works. But it's very important to see if your story or your truth fits into that established truth. For instance, in classical dance, there is a system. Classical dancers start training very young, so almost at the age of 6. They train for several years. And if you ask any classical dancer, they'll always tell you that dance is this all-encompassing feeling. And almost many dancers will tell you that dance is like a husband to them. But this was definitely not my case. I was introduced to classical dance much later in life. And I never saw it as something, like Odissi was never something that overpowered me, or definitely I didn't see it as a masculine persona, as a husband of any sort. What it actually was to me was, Odissi is a very rigorous discipline, and regular practice of that discipline, it became a tool through which I chiseled parts of myself, and I brought a lot of focus and clarity into my life using Odissi. And when I started teaching, I was completely clear that this was what I wanted to do. I wanted to share this tool with other adults so that they can use it to improve their lives, whether physically or emotionally. Often, everyone is sending off children to so many classes. So you have to learn this, you have to learn that, and music class, dance class, but everyone conveniently forgets learning after a certain point of time. Like adults are exempt from learning. But I wish to change this at Arpana and give every adult who maybe missed out on arts education at a younger age a second chance. And also, I don't like teaching children something as rigorous as classical dancing. As it is, our children are imposed with so much of discipline. And if ever they do join a dance class, it should be spaces where people help them organize their own ideas about dance and not some very strict discipline which is being enforced on them. Having said that, I think that classical dance and music are such a great way to introduce children to a lot of learning concepts and also to something that is their own culture. But strangely enough, performances don't allow young children into auditoriums. And even if you had asked me a few years back if children had the patience to sit through a classical dance performance, I would have said definitely not. But I would have definitely been wrong, because experience has taught me that children are transfixed when it comes to watching a classical dance performance. They follow the storyline, they want to try out the movements, they ask so many questions. And always after a performance, they are the most enthusiastic people who come up to you and tell you how much they loved it, and whether you'd come to their school, show this to their friends. There's another notion in classical dance of purity. So a classical dancer will follow a single discipline, and she won't try too many other things, not even other dance forms, in fear that her art will get corrupted in a sense. But again, this was not the case for me. As it is, I had already worked for 7 years with the social sector, working with different NGOs. And so many times dancers tell me, oh, you missed out those 7 years, you could have practiced classical dance. But for me, those 7 years in the social sector was so important in forming who I am. And also, it helped me always make sure that the dance I'm doing is socially relevant in a sense. And so I continue to work with diverse groups of people, whether it is children with disabilities, or I use dance for different ideas such as waste management awareness, or I do a lot of work with the transgender community in Bangalore, because I feel that diverse experiences give me a very wholesome view on life, which I find invaluable. Also, in a strange way, I find more and more, the more things I do, somewhere along the line, I find that everything is the same, and improving one thing always strangely seems to improve something else. And for instance, as another small example, I was invited to choreograph a Bollywood flash mob for a corporate. And this was a lot of fun. And also, it got me thinking that flash mobs had been around for more than a decade. But strangely enough, nobody had thought of doing a classical dance flash mob, whether it was ballet or Indian, any form. So we said, why not? And that's what we did. And recently, the Limca Book of World Records called me and they want to register this, which I thought was amazing because I had never envisioned holding a world record of any sort. I had a huge problem when I started a few years back. I had absolutely no space to practice my dance. And to rent studios in Bangalore, one is they're very expensive, or they're very far off from where I stay, they're overbooked, or they're very crampy. And this was proving to be a big challenge, and I kept thinking how I could get around this problem until I just saw things a little differently. I saw that there was these acres of land in the heart of Bangalore, beautiful land, maintained beautifully by our city authorities, and with fresh air, sunlight, and just the most gorgeous place you could think of dancing. And the best part was it was completely free of cost. So that's what we did. We landed up in Cubbon Park in Bangalore and started using it as our rehearsal space. And this, of course, seemed to gather a lot of interest in the media because we were a group of women doing this strange thing like dancing in a public space. But it also led me to another exploration, a journey I took for more than a year of exploring a lot of public spaces for performances. And along that one more than a year journey, I came across so many interesting experiences. And a few of them, we started off with a series of village performances. So we would tour across all the villages in Karnataka and we would dance at very informal places like the village temple. And the audience would sit throughout the night and watch us. And we would sleep in the temple. And then the next day morning, someone would invite us for breakfast. Someone would pack us lunch on the way back. And I just find this kind of performing so meaningful in a sense because it's so different from dancing in a stuffy auditorium, which you otherwise would be constrained to. But this kind of performances help me build a connection with the audience, which I couldn't have imagined otherwise. Another great connection I happened to make was with two amazing filmmakers, Vishwas and Chirant. We collaborated and we made this Odissi video, which happened to go viral. And it has me dancing Odissi in several really random parts of Bangalore, whether it's middle of the KR market or in a mall. But really, this experience of using public space as a performance venue has taught me so much as an artist. One, because it's an exciting journey to do. It adds a lot of spontaneity in our humdrum lives. It's suddenly you see someone dancing in the middle of somewhere you wouldn't expect. It's great. It's a lovely way of starting a dialogue. You're not on a platform performing as an artist. You're right there, accessible to the audience. So it's a great way of creating dialogue. And the best part is it takes the dance to an audience who would otherwise maybe never step into an auditorium to see you dance. And I keep trying different things. But when I started Arpana, I was very much like this scared mouse. I was very intimidated and I thought I didn't know enough. I was very scared to take even a single step which wouldn't be perfect. And I was scared of being judged, especially maybe by the gurus who had done so much of work in the field already. But one day I just realized that Odissi was not owned by any single person or a group of people. It's owned by every single dancer who practices Odissi. So this gave me such a, like I was putting my arms around Odissi in a sense. And I realized that if I loved it so much, I couldn't do anything very drastically wrong. And even if I did, I'm sure somebody would correct me and I can always seek forgiveness and move on from there. Of course, along life's, she's just like an Odissi dancer life. She never makes any straight lines. So she's full of these unexpected curves, which has taught me two things, which is a personal view. I don't know if you'll agree, but I've learned that one is that I may have a vision today, which may not become a reality tomorrow because of the unpredictable nature of tomorrow. Or I may have had a vision yesterday, which I may not even want as a reality today because of the unpredictable nature of myself. But having said that, I don't say that we shouldn't have vision. We'd be totally lost without a vision. But I think that with the vision, always we must have some sense of plasticity or flexibility and keep changing and transforming ourselves and seeking things beyond. I think what I really want to do is to remind the world that this beautiful existence and intelligence of the body exists, because so much of our world nowadays is sitting. So we're sitting at work, we're sitting in school, we come home, we're sitting in front of the TV, we meet friends, we're sitting over coffee. So what better way to bring the body alive than to dance? But often I find that people are intimidated when it comes to dance. They don't know what to do, or they think it's not something they would do because it's not something. This, of course, is not Gandhi. It's an actor playing Gandhi, because we don't expect people who hold serious roles in our society to do something as frivolous as dance. But Mr. Prime Minister, sir, if you ever happen to see this video, it's a very warm invitation from me. Please do come and dance with me. For if you see in the West, regardless of your political ideology, people who hold very serious roles and responsibilities in society are expected to do fun things like dance. But if you come closer home, what is the most important role or responsibility we can think of? In India, we've imagined our God himself as a dancer. So what is stopping you?